The cold void of space hung silent over the ruined world of Vro fires, raged across its once great cities, sending plumes of smoke spiraling into the sky. The Valari people, once proud and mighty, were being hunted to extinction above the planet. Massive sea Dominion warships loomed like harbingers of doom, their weapons fired relentlessly, reducing the last Valar strongholds to dust, and ash inside a hidden bunker deep beneath the surface. High Chancellor Varric. The Valari watched the destruction on a flickering holo screen. His people's cries filled the air as the last defenses collapsed one by one. He turned to his advisors, his voice filled with desperation. "We have one final option," he said, his hand shaking. "Activate the beacon." His officers hesitated. The Galactic Council had already denied their pleas for help. The message would likely be ignored again. But Varric had no choice. One of the officers pressed a glowing blue button. A distress signal was sent out, a final desperate cry into the void of space. But this was no ordinary call for help. This signal was ancient, encoded with long-forgotten frequencies that only one kind of being would recognize. The Deathworlders far across the galaxy, in the abandoned depths of Outpost Blackfire. Something stirred. The facility had been silent for centuries, buried beneath the surface of a desolate moon. Its halls were dark, its machines inactive. But as the signal pierced the silence, a single red light blinked to life deep in the heart of the outpost. An ancient war AI booted up, scanning the message. It identified the distress call, processing its meaning. Enemy invasion. Detected request for aid received. The AI hesitated for exactly 0.3 seconds before activating Protocol Blackfire at directive so old that most believed it a myth across the system. Forgotten warships, powered up enormous vessels long thought lost, came alive. With an eerie hum, automated repair systems activated, weapon systems charge, and engines roared to life. The AI transmitted a single message back to Earth. Hidden military command. Protocol Blackfire engaged. A worlder fleet mobilization in progress on the human home world deep beneath the surface of a classified military complex. Admiral Elias Kane sat alone in his dimly live office when his holo screen flashed red. He frowned, leaning forward. Protocol Blackfire. That was impossible. The last time the Deathworlders were mobilized, entire empires fell. He tapped the console, bringing up the message, the Valor's final distress call. Kane exhaled, his fingers tightening into fists. He had seen too many messages like this, too many civilizations crying out for help, only for the Galactic Council to ignore them. But humanity never ignored a cry for help. He pressed a button on his desk. Within moments, a team of high-ranking officers entered the room. Their eyes widened when they saw the alert. This can't be real, one of them whispered. "It's real," Kane said, his voice like steel. "The question is, what are we going to do about it?" There was no hesitation. Within minutes, a fleet of warships hidden deep within the Sol system received the activation order. Engines ignited, weapons charged, and stealth systems activated. Earth's forgotten war fleet was coming back, and the Dominion had no idea what was about to hit them. The Cry Dominion had ruled the outer galaxies with an iron fist for centuries. They were conquerors, destroyers, a force that had never known true defeat. And now Velro was their latest prize. Admiral Chorus, the Sea Fleet commander, stood aboard the bridge of his colossal dreadnought, the vengeance of CTH, watching the final resistance of the Valari crumble beneath his ships. Relentless B bombardment. The Valari had begged for help. Pathetic Chorus sneered. The Galactic Council wouldn't dare challenge the CRTH. No species in the galaxy would risk war for a doomed world. His second-in-command, Captain Selker, approached with a smirk. "Another world falls to the Dominion. No resistance remains." "Of course," Chorus said, arms crossed. "No one stands against the CR." But then alarms blared across the command deck. A transmission not from the Galactic Council, not from the Valari, but from deep dark space. A signal traced back to a location long thought abandoned. Outpost Blackfire. Chorus frowned. That name, that cursed name, confirm its origin. He barked. Seller hesitated, his scales paling. "Sir, it's them." Chorus felt a chill crawl up his spine. The Deathworlders across the galaxy, aboard the flagship UNS Revenant. Admiral Elias Kane stood on the bridge, surrounded by his officers. The once dark fleet was now fully operational, and the massive warships lurched forward through the void, engines humming with deadly purpose before him. Dozens of holographic displays showed their fleet's destination. VTH Kane turned to his second-in-command, Captain Mara Vasquez. "Status report. All ships are in formation. Vasquez replied, weapons online stealth fields engaged. Kane nodded, his expression unreadable. The Death Worlders hadn't been summoned in centuries. Humanity had long chosen to stay silent, hidden, forgotten. But now the galaxy would remember them. He looked at the tactical display. Sea warships were already entrenched around Vu. They thought the battle was over. They have no idea what's coming, K murmured. Sir Vask said, orders. Kane's eyes darkened. Begin the hunt. The sea fleet remained unaware. Their arrogance blinded them to the shifting tides of war. Then without warning, ships began disappearing one by one. Sea cruisers patrolling the system vanished from sensors. No explosions, no distress calls, just silence. Chorus slammed his fist against the control panel. What is happening? He roared. His officers scrambled for answers. But there were none. Then a single sea battleship sent a fragmented transmission. Before vanishing into nothingness, shadows in the void. Something is hunting us. Impossible. And then static panic spread through the sea ranks. The hunters had arrived. And soon the slaughter would begin. The sea had never known fear. They had crushed empires, burned worlds, and reduced entire civilizations to dust. They were the apex predators of the galaxy. Until now, Admiral Chorus stood rigid, staring at the tactical display. His fleet, once an unstoppable force, was now in disarray. Ships were disappearing without a trace. No AG, no survivors, just silence. This is impossible, Captain Seller muttered. We control this sector. No fleet can operate here without us knowing. Chorus claws dug into the control panel. His mind raced through centuries of military history, searching for anything that could explain this. Then a name surfaced, a name the CR had worked hard to erase from history. Humans. Chorus exhaled. Slow. Send a system-wide alert. Full combat readiness. Now Seller hesitated. So we don't even know what we're fighting. Chorus turned, eyes glowing with rage. That's what makes it worse. Above Vro, hidden in the void, the Death Worlder fleet waited. Aboard the UNS Revenant, Admiral Elias Can watched his officers silently work, their faces illuminated by the red glow of the war consoles. The Crit still had no idea who was attacking them. They would soon. Captain Mara Vasquez approached, her expression grim. Sea reinforcements have been dispatched. Estimated arrival 6 hours. C nodded. We won't need that long. She studied him carefully. Permission to engage. Kane glanced at the tactical map. The CR were scrambling, panicking, making mistakes. He could feel their fear here. Proceed. He ordered. A ripple of activity spread across the command deck. It was time. Aboard the CR flagship, alarms blared as stealth barriers shattered like glass. From the darkness, massive human warships emerged, silent, ominous, bristling with weapons that hadn't seen use in centuries. And then hell was unleashed. Kinetic rounds traveling at near speed tore through sea ship like paper. Unseen snipers obliterated command centers. Invisible drones ripped through engines, rendering warships defenseless. Chorus watched in horror as one of his best destroyers was cut in half by a single shot from an unseen foe. This isn't war, Sewer whispered, his voice shaking. Its extermination. Chorus gritted his teeth. We are the CR Dominion. We do not surrender. But the truth was evident. They had never fought anything like this before. The humans weren't fighting for territory. They weren't here for conquest. They had come to end the war before it could even begin. The CR had always been the hunters. They were the ones who struck first, crushed their enemies, and left only ruins behind. But now, they were the prey. Admiral Chorus watched in growing terror as his fleet fell apart. Ships vanished from the battle map. Without a trace, sea battle cruisers designed to withstand planetary sieges were torn apart in seconds. Entire formations collapsed before they could even fire a shot. This wasn't war, this was annihilation, sir. The Revenant-class warship is locking onto U.S. Seller's voice was shaking. We need to retreat. Chorus slammed a fist into the console. Retreat to where there was no safe place left. Aboard the UNS Revenant, Admiral Elias Kane observed the chaos. His officers worked in focused silence, executing pre-planned strikes with lethal precision. The sea fleet was strong, but it was unprepared for an enemy like this. The humans had been gone for centuries, dismissed as a forgotten race, a species that had mysteriously vanished from galactic affairs. And now they were back. Kane turned to Captain Mara Vasquez. Status: all primary targets eliminated. Sea command ships are attempting to regroup, but their fleet is in complete disarray. Kane exhaled. Send the message. Vasquez nodded. The encrypted transmission was dispatched. It contained only 5 words. This is your only warning. Chorus watched as a message flashed across his console. He hesitated before opening it. The moment he read the words, his blood turned to ice. Sor whispered chorus, slowly raised his gaze, his voice was horror. When he spoke, we can't win this. The sea had ruled through fear and strength. They had never encountered an opponent that could outmatch them so completely. And yet here they were, the humans hadn't even deployed their full forces, and still the CRTH were losing. Prepare a full retreat, chorus ordered. We need to warn High Command. Sir Sellers' voice trembled. If we retreat, what will they do? Chorus turned toward the view screen. The human fleet was waiting, watching, deciding. His voice was barely a whisper. I don't know. The CR had never known fear for centuries. They had been the unstoppable force, crushing weaker species, dominating worlds, and expanding their empire without challenge. They had never lost a war, until now. Admiral Chorus watched in horror as his once mighty fleet crumbled. Sea warships, each a symbol of imperial strength, were picked apart like prey. Their shields, once impenetrable, were shattered with ease. Their weapons, once feared, were useless against an enemy that struck from the shadows. And the worst part, the humans weren't even speaking. No demands, no negotiations, no arrogance, just silence. A silence that whispered one terrifying truth: the CTH were already dead. They just didn't know it yet. Aboard the UNS Revenant, Admiral Elias Kane watched the crits collapse. His officers worked with cold efficiency. Every maneuver was precise, every attack calculated. The CTH were still fighting, but there was no strategy left, just desperate attempts to survive. Kane turned to Captain Vasquez. Have they responded to our warning? Vasquez checked the transmission blocks. No, they're still trying to escape. C's expression remained unreadable. Then they haven't learned yet. He turned back to the battle. His fleet was surgical, striking only where necessary, crippling the CR without total annihilation. This wasn't just a battle, this was a lesson. Admiral Chorus gritted his teeth as another sea battleship exploded on the view screen. They had to escape, open a secure channel to the Dominion's High Command. He barked. A hologram flickered to life. Supreme Commander Zivik, the leader of the Sea Dominion. His reptilian eyes narrowed in irritation. Admiral Chorus, I assume you are calling to report victory. Chorus's throat tightened. We've made contact with the enemy. And Chorus hesitated. His pride, his training, his very identity as a CRIF officer screamed at him to never show weakness. But as he looked at the battlefield, the wreckage of his fleet drifting lifelessly in the void, he knew the truth. He lowered his head. We cannot win. For a moment there was silence, then Zivi's eyes darkened. You are mistaken, Admiral. The sea do not lose. Chorus clenched his fists. Then you do not understand the enemy we face. They are only humans. Xvic growled. Chorus shook his head, his voice barely above a whisper. No, they are something else. And as the transmission ended, a terrifying realization sank in. The CI Dominion had already lost. They just didn't know it. Yet the Sea Dominion had never known terror until now. Their once mighty fleet, built to conquer entire civilizations, was reduced to smoldering wreckage, drifting in the void. Their elite warships, designed to be unstoppable, were nothing more than burning husks. And the enemy, the humans, did not gloat. They did not speak. They only hunted. Admiral Chorus stood frozen on the bridge of his crippled battleship, watching in disbelief as human warships moved like predators, striking with deadly precision. Admiral, his second in command, stammered the fleet. We have no more command. Ship's High Command is his. Chorus turned. What? The officer's scaly face paled. They're gone, Sir. Chorus's blood ran cold. Gone, not defeated, not captured, gone. The CR High Command had been erased from existence before they could even order a retreat aboard. The UNS Revenant. Admiral Elias Kane watched in silence. Humanity's war doctrine was simple: strike once, strike hard, never give them a second chance. And now the CRTH were learning that lesson too. Late Captain Vasquez approached. Sir, the last of their fleet is surrendering. Kane didn't flinch. Surrender? Vasquez nodded. They've powered down weapons and are transmitting distress signals. Kane's expression remained ice cold. And what of their command structure? There is none. We've removed it. Kane exhaled slowly. This was war. The sea had wanted to fight. They had declared war on humanity, expecting an easy victory. Instead, they had woken something they could never control, and now they were begging for mercy. Admiral Chorus watched the chaos unfold around him. The CR fleet was broken, their command structure shattered, their warships reduced to debris. And worst of all, the humans had not spoken a single word. They did not demand surrender. They did not threaten annihilation. They simply acted like an unstoppable force that never hesitated, never doubted. For the first time in his life, Chorus felt fear. He turned to his officer. Open a channel to the Humans, the officer hesitated, but obeyed. The view screen flickered a lone human, Admiral Elias. Kane stared back, his face unreadable. Chorus swallowed. We surrender." There was silence, then, finally, Kane spoke. Too late, the transmission cut. And the Sea Dominion knew this was not a war, it was an extinction. The CR home world burned, its once proud cities, towering monuments to conquest, were now smoldering ruins. Explosions lit up the sky as the last remnants of the sea military fought in vain. Humanity had not come for territory. They had not come for negotiations. They had come to end a threat permanently. Admiral Elias. Kane stood on the bridge of the UNS Revenant, staring at the dying world below. The sea had made a fatal mistake. They had underestimated humanity's resolve. Captain Vasquez approached. "Sir, resistance is collapsing. Their last planetary defense stations have been neutralized." Kane nodded. "Casualties?" Vasquez hesitated. "Minimal, so they never stood a chance. Of course, they hadn't. Humanity had fought wars before. But this was extermination. The sea had declared war, expecting an easy victory. Instead, they had unleashed a force they could not comprehend. Deep inside the last CR command bunker, Admiral Chorus trembled. The air was thick with smoke and blood, the sounds of battle growing closer. The humans were coming. They had ignored every plea for surrender, every message of desperation. A terrified officer turned to Chorus. "Sir, what do we do?" Chorus's throat was dry. He had commanded a fleet that had crushed empires. He had watched civilizations kneel before the CR. But now he was the one kneeling. A deepening boom shook the bunker. The lights flickered, the doors buckled inward. A single final transmission echoed across the Sea Dominion. "You chose war, now face the consequences." Then darkness consumed them all. "You said the Sea Dominion was no more. What had once been a feared and ruthless empire spanning hundreds of star systems was now silent. Their fleets were ash and debris, their colonies abandoned, and their home world reduced to a wasteland. But humanity did not celebrate. This was not victory. This was a warning. Aboard the UNS Revenant, Admiral Elias Kane stood before a holographic display of the now lifeless sea home world. The devastation was total. No survivors, no future. Captain Vasquez approached. "Sir, our fleets report that all enemy strongholds have been neutralized. The Sea Dominion is gone." Kane sighed, his expression unreadable. "And the Valari, they are rebuilding with our help." Kane nodded. That was the difference between humans and the CRTH. They did not conquer, they ended threats and helped survivors rise again. But this war would not be forgotten. Across the galaxy, the message of Earth's wrath spread like wildfire. Governments whispered in hushed voices. Military leaders studied the ruins of the CTH, horrified by what they saw. The Galactic Council convened in a state of panic. For centuries, they had ignored humanity, mocked them, labeled them irrelevant. Now they knew the truth. The Valari, once left to die, now stood under Earth's protection. The Council had abandoned them, but humanity had not, and the message was clear: if you come for humanity or those under their protection, there will be no mercy. On a distant, hidden world, a new signal was received. A warlord from the unknown regions watched the footage of the CR's downfall, his reptilian claws tapping against the armorist of his throne. He leaned forward, a glimmer of dark curiosity in his eyes. Interesting. And somewhere deep in the void, another storm was beginning to rise.